Hi, I'm Ruthie, owner of Defy the Status Quo, and you're watching or listening to an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast, your Monday through Friday 10-minute shot of business knowledge. So, today we're going to talk about user generated content or UGC. So, what is user generated content? It could be photos or videos or just text posts on social media, typically of a customer or client talking about your product or your service. So you've probably seen these before. We see them on Facebook, we see them on Instagram. It's somebody, you know, hey, I just got this Google Pixel 2 and I love it so much. It's way better than any other phone that I've ever had. And if you're in the market for a new phone, you should consider getting a Google. And that's just me as your friend, not sponsored. And maybe if you hadn't considered getting a Google phone before, you would consider it now because you know that I really enjoy having awesome, technology at my disposal and you trust my review. So even if you choose not to buy it in the end, I might have caused you to research it and you may consider it and become a customer at some point in the future that no one could predict. But that's the sort of content, right? User generated content that companies just can't buy. And it's so critical because studies show that over two-thirds of consumers trust UGC over branded consumer content or branded content from the companies. And don't worry, client-based businesses, I'm thinking of you too. If somebody writes a post on Instagram or LinkedIn about your services and how great they were, that's user-generated content too. So just because you don't sell a physical product doesn't mean that you can't also benefit from user-generated content. So like I said, it's valuable because over 66% of consumers trust UGC over branded company content. And another important thing to note is that content, user generated content that's created on a cell phone or smartphone, basically the vertical image is considered more authentic by consumers as well. So this is a point where, landscape photography, the longer, wider version of the photograph may not actually be to your benefit because it doesn't look like it was taken on a smartphone. The reason I think why that authenticity is so present and so obvious with vertical images taken from smartphones is that for most of us who have a smartphone, you're typically not too far away from it. So when you post UGC or when a consumer posts UGC, it helps other people feel like they're in the moment and part of the experience. And that is exactly what it is. It's that person sharing their experience. And we know that either someone really hates something or they really love it in order to leave a review, right? The masses in the middle who are content often won't leave a review either way. So even if they're only mildly upset or they're mildly pleased, they won't leave a review. So positive UGC is definitely something you want to keep an eye out for. And you won't see it if all you do is schedule posts to your social media and you never actually check those channels. I have people that I've followed in the past on LinkedIn especially, and I would comment and I would try to engage on their posts to try to help them out too, because if I'm talking and I'm asking questions, it gives them an opportunity to kind of show off their expertise, and an answer never came, and I realized it was because they only scheduled their posts and they never actually checked LinkedIn. So I actually unconnected with that person. But again, it was kind of a missed opportunity for them. One of the rules of etiquette that not a lot of companies follow when using UGC in their own strategy is that they don't reach out before sharing. And this is actually something I really advise you do because, their content is theirs, it belongs to them. But I believe that when companies fail to reach out directly to customers who are obviously ecstatic about their product or service and ask them for their content, they're missing an opportunity to directly engage with a happy customer and get feedback. If the person's willing to post onto their social media channels how great your business is, why not send a message and say, hey, we saw that you were talking about X product or X service, and we were so happy that you were thrilled. We wanted to reshare it on our social media channels. Is that okay? The customer more than likely is going to say yes, and then you continue that conversation. So can you tell us what it was specifically that you liked about it? Ask them about their buyer's journey. How did you hear about us? What made you decide to choose us? Because they're already willing to share on social media, they're more than likely going to be willing to answer those questions. And that is, while not empirical data, that is valuable information that you can use in other marketing channels. It's information that you can use as you make refinements to your website and further hone your buyer personas. It could also alert you to a channel of referral that you weren't aware of. Perhaps there's a subreddit that and somebody posted about your company in that subreddit, and that is how that person found your company. But Reddit was never even a thing that you opened before. But now you know about it because you actually asked the customer. So don't miss out on these valuable market research opportunities. Just because you've got a successful product or service does not mean that the market research stops. If you want to stay successful, then you need to keep researching and figuring out what it is that your target market loves about your products and services. So, oh, and on top of all of that, it makes your customers and your clients feel really appreciated and heard. In the future, if they do have a problem, it's more likely that they would probably just respond to that message and say, hey, this happened. Is there any way you can help me? I actually had that experience with Naked Wines. I order my wine from them and it's fantastic. However, the first time I got to interact with them directly was not on social media. It was because I was calling their service desk and it wasn't their fault. I knew this, but FedEx had signed for my wine package themselves and left it on my porch, which you're not allowed to do, upside down in the rain. So, like, there were a whole bunch of things wrong with that, but it wasn't their fault. I was just calling to let them know that their carrier made several mistakes. They were profusely apologetic, and I advised them to, request something from the carrier for them in return. But and then they also gave me a $25 credit for my trouble. And I can't say enough good things about them, especially because how they reacted in a time where I could have been a really upset customer and actually blame them for what happened. And even though I was very calm, they were very, very apologetic and made me feel like a valued customer. So, one last note, don't confuse influencer content with UGC. Influencer content is purchased. You solicit an influencer to post about your company. This is not the same. Most people, while they do follow influencers, they do know that it's an influencer post. Not to mention, the influencers are starting to be regulated, and there are certain things they have to put in their post to indicate that it is a paid sponsorship. So that's not the same as UGC. UGC is earned, it's not paid, it's unsolicited. When you open up a social media platform, it should be a surprise. You didn't even know it was going to be there. It's genuine and authentic. It's not the same. Influencer posts are often very scripted or very staged. Professional photography, they don't come off as authentic, at least not for major influencers. For micro influencers, maybe they still have that authentic UGC type feel to them. But again, even if you engage with micro influencers, do not confuse influencer content with UGC. You can encourage your customers to create UGC on your behalf, maybe using a certain hashtag or something. But again, it's a surprise. You're never going to know when it happens, or at least you shouldn't. All right. So that's been an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast. Thank you for joining me. And our premier guest for next season 2, is a PR professional. And we were so excited that she agreed to be on the Defiant Business Podcast. And you will learn a little bit more about her in the upcoming episodes of this very first season of the show. Thank you so much for joining me.